For me, content marketing isn't just about content. You can produce really good stuff, but if it doesn't get out there and engage with your audience, if it doesn't get seen, then it's not going to give you any value. Search trends will suggest that content marketing is the new SEO, it's the new digital marketing. But I think a lot of businesses, when I talk to them, really don't know where to start, or they've invested time and effort into producing content, and it really hasn't delivered very much for them. So AVG is a huge consumer brand. They're globally known. They've been around for a long while. And so you might think that your business isn't directly related. But AVG, as all businesses, face some really big challenges. One of which is the size of the market. Antivirus, internet security, there's a plethora of companies out there. There are huge numbers. There's also a much bigger issue for AVG and its competitors in that not so much the market is declining as this sort of screenshot would have you believe, which is the search trend for the term antivirus over the years. The market is changing. So as we move to mobile devices, our expectations are different. Internet security companies are increasingly about terms like malware. So people and media talk about malware now far more than they do talk about viruses and antivirus or internet security. And it's also about privacy protection. It's about where your data is shared online and how you keep it protected, or how you lock down your information. The industry is rapidly changing, consumers are rapidly changing, and for a company like AVG, who have for years ranked first, for example, in Google for antivirus or free antivirus, they can't rest on those laurels because things change and consumer expectations change. Several of the main objectives for the campaign that we've been running with AVG are to increase market share, just to help them stand out from this crowd of competitors that are out there. And a really important one is to try and become more consumer friendly, try and actually be producing stuff that's engaging with an audience as opposed to just, here is a distressed product that you need. And also to broaden the customer understanding of what AVG offer. That it's not just internet security, that it's about online safety. And clearly for any campaign, driving revenue has got to be a key consideration as well. So this is the steps we took specifically with the content marketing element of the strategy. So step one, and this, you'll notice with some of these steps that if there's a strong correlation here with content marketing and any other marketing discipline. This is all the stuff that we were taught about general marketing, but sometimes it's forgotten when you're talking about the latest thing online and digital. So you've got to understand who your target audience is. You need to specify, you need to go into more detail, you need to start segmenting your audience. If you've got very little understanding of who your current audience is, you could start to get a really strong understanding from free tools. For example, Google Analytics. You need to enable within your tracking code some demographics. Once you've done that, you start to get some top-level information about the age and the gender of your users that are visiting your website. But equally, and you can't really say it, you get affinity categories, which is just a convoluted way of saying these are what your users are interested in. There's an awful lot of a very top-level stats there. The bigger you get as a company, the more traffic you generate, the more you'll see the same old categories coming up over and over again. So what we do for some of our larger clients is actually pull the data out from Google Analytics and actually compare it to a superset of data from across all of our clients and see what the differences are. You also get this in-market segment, which is essentially what type of searches is this user conducting, what type of interests do they have when they come to your website. So you can start to segment some of your existing data there. There's a number of other things that you can do. So from your traditional kind of externally commissioned audience research through to social media, really good at tip with social media. If you use the right tools, things like Follower Wonk by Moz and others, you can start to pull a following list from all the people who follow you on Twitter. Look at who they are following and see what the correlation is. See who the people who are your target audience, so are following you or following competitors, who do they have in common? Who are they interested in? That can really help you to understand the content that those users are consuming online. You can also, and this is so often overlooked, interview the people within your business who are dealing direct with customers, whether it's a sales team, customer support. Talk to them about who their customers are, who are the biggest opportunities, where they find it easiest to sell to, who are the most difficult target audience. So you can start to get a sense of of who you really should be targeting online. You can also look at obviously business data, competitive content analysis as well. Who are your competitors trying to talk to? Does that inform you that you should be doing the same thing or quite the opposite? So once you've understood in broad levels there who your target audience is, you need to understand what challenges they face online. And this is hugely important. There's a really good quote from a guy called Jay Baer. We may have heard, sell something and you get a customer today. But if you help someone, you get a customer for life. It's a little bit contrived, but it's a very good point. That when you're producing content, think about how you can help your target audience. Think about what you can do to answer one of their needs, because that's how you engage. So we do all sorts of research just to see what's out there and to identify opportunities. And we looked at what challenges are small businesses facing typically, and what's really kind of engaging with those audiences. A key one for small businesses is increasingly looking to expand internationally. So you start Googling for things like small business expand internationally, and you start to see huge amounts of articles and content. Some of it's really, really engaging, some of it not so much, but there's clearly an appetite for this content because you can look at you can look at comments on articles, you can look at social media, sharing, etc. Once you've identified, here are a number of areas where content could engage with an audience. You need to understand whether it's actually being done effectively online, where are the gaps, can you actually add anything to the conversation? Because if you're trying to produce content and there's something out there that's 10 times better than what you can produce, it's going to be very difficult to actually get it exposure to build it up. Type in some search phrases that you might use to find that type of content. See what appears in the top 10 results. Think to yourself, can I or can we produce something that is more engaging or comes at it from a different angle, or in some way is a better resource than the stuff that's appearing here? If it's the case that you look at it and you think, wow, this is really good, really engaging content, you're probably better off looking for some other sort of angle, some other approach. I can't tell you how, to produce specific content for your industry, because we all differ, we all have different audience types. Think about the message, think about what you're trying to say and the need that you're trying to service. Don't think about the method of the content first. Don't talk about the format. So, if you get around as a group and think, right, content marketing, we need to think of an idea for an infographic, or we need to come up with a video. That's exactly the wrong way of looking at it. You're thinking about what the message is, what you're trying to say, who you're trying to speak to, and then you think about the most appropriate format to actually convey that message. So it might well be that it could be an interactive infographic, or it could be a video, or it could just be a really well-written article. You actually start with the message and then come back to the most engaging and the most appropriate format for that message. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples now. This is some of the stuff that we've produced for AVG. Going back to this whole concept about small businesses looking to expand internationally. Training Without Borders is a relatively simple piece of content marketing. What we're trying to do is basically give small businesses a really simple and clear visual representation of the internet isn't the internet isn't the internet. But as you go from country to country, key variables change, whether it's average speed of internet access, what the dominant search engine is, what the split is between desktop and mobile traffic, for example. And so all of this information is freely available. If you're happy to look through reams and reams of tables of data or massive PDFs of white papers, we've taken that and made it more engaging. So looking at the UK, you can see that Google has a 90% market share. Not anymore, it has started to come down. Looking at what percentage of the population is online, the Facebook is the market social media channel. This is data that's about just over a year old now, so it does need updating. But looking at the average broadband speed, for example, compared to somewhere like China, where you've got Baidu and you've got QQ, which is the major social network, or you go over to India, 45% of their traffic, of their internet traffic as a whole, is from mobile devices. People don't tend to have a desktop sat there so much. So this was really engaging. It encourages you as a user, once you've started to click on it, to actually start to engage more and more. You're clicking from country to country to country, and you're thinking, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that. So we had some really good success with it. But you don't just produce a piece of content, put it online and think, that's brilliant, that's done. you need to get the message out there. So we started actually with Facebook advertising for two reasons. One, to directly get people to come through to the content, but two, to actually look at what kind of angle is going to be the best way to kind of more broaden the outreach for this, and how do we get out there to the market and talk to them about it. So we split test different types of messaging. So we're using different headlines, we're using different descriptions to promote this content to users, and we're actually testing which kind of approach is most engaging, which one's driving the most traffic, which one is subsequently, leading people to click on further into the website. So we really kind of refined the message, we really refined the hook that's going to get people to engage with this. And then we pushed it out more broadly. I think we mentioned this morning Outbrain, and so we actually used Outbrain to paid promote this content on places like on CNN.com, on Fox News, CNBC, and we invested a relatively modest amount of budget and got 16,000 clicks through to the website, a cost per click of about 31p, which is less than a 20th of what their average cost per click on AdWords is for kind of commercial terms. We also pushed it out through their social media channels, had 4,000 likes in 48 hours. So it started to get some really good traction. For the SEO people amongst us, obviously it's important to try and build links and try and get coverage as well. So we outreached to media websites. We got coverage from Forbes.com, who get about 70 million visits a month. We got coverage from The Guardian with two slightly different angles. On the consumer side, we started off relatively simply with a number of ebooks. So we're looking again at specific life stages. How do we engage with our audience? So everything from parenting to students travelling abroad to the whole concept of digital death or digital divorce. We produced these series of ebooks which can be freely downloaded from the ABG website, covering off these topics. Again, this is where copy starts to matter. This is where the sort of layout and formatting starts to matter. But we're giving relatively straightforward, simple advice on how you deal with things like what do you do with your Netflix account. A, obviously directly engaging with audiences, but B, gave us hooks to talk to more specific media outlets. So the sort of Silver Surfer websites that are increasingly, surprisingly popular, and also some obviously the media. It gives us more additional angles that we can go and get coverage. One of the areas where we saw a huge amount of success was with the parenting stuff. And so we thought, right, here's a big opportunity. We could do a lot more here. And so we actually approached a charity called ChildNet, who are an online safety charity, and went backwards and forwards for some time about how we can do something that's more engaging, that basically services this need that every parent has of how do you keep your child safe online. And eventually we came up with the idea of an interactive series of ebooks. Each one focusing on a very, very simple topic. So one around online bullying, which has got a couple of really simple key messages. They are designed for parents to actually sit down with and go through with their children as a sort of shared learning experience. The child or the parent clicks through the slides and basically it's a story, it's a narrative, which when I teach you something, it's the age-old kind of narrative with a fable with a moral at the end. On the advice of ChildNet, we actually took the view that we should make it interactive, that we should give children a choice, and we should reinforce that choice a couple of times to really drive the message home. So children go through this and they choose an option. So someone's bullying you online, sending you messages saying that you stink, what should you do? Should you just ignore them, or should you respond? Should you speak to a parent? And you win or don't digital donuts, which then at the end of the piece you can see how many you scored out of 3. This was hugely successful. Beyond, I think, our expectations. We had 36,000 Facebook likes within 48 hours again. The internal marketing team actually converted some of these into some teaser kind of trailers on YouTube, which we pushed out on YouTube and got 45,000, 43,000 views and likes. In terms of actual traffic, it generated nearly 8,500 clicks in the first week through to abg.com. And from the SEO perspective, 193 higher quality links have been built from these. It was so successful that we ended up translating that content into multiple different languages, into German, into French, into Portuguese for the Brazilian market, and actually then got coverage from places like computerbuild.de, which is one of Germany's main kind of tech websites, or Le Parisien in France. And the impact on the bottom line, in the 10 months since launching that campaign, with a number of other elements of the campaign, so technical SEO and CRO as the kind of foundation pieces, we saw some huge successes in search rankings as well. So number one, for 20 keywords that we were targeting, we saw 9 of those get to number 1 in the UK, 9 of them go to number 1 in the US. This included a huge number of really high value, high search terms, like things like internet security. And we saw in that period a 53% increase in revenue from organic search for AVG, which, given their starting position, was even more repeat. So if you had to ask specific questions, please do come and grab me and ask me questions later.